The Buffalo nickel of 1919 belongs to one of the most iconic eras of American coinage, and its story is deeply tied to art, culture, politics, and everyday life in the United States during the early 20th century. The coin, officially known as the Indian head nickel, was introduced in 1913 as part of a movement to beautify American coinage inspired by President Theodore Roosevelt, who believed U.S. coins should reflect the nation's strength, heritage, and artistic ambition. By 1919, the design was already famous and widely recognized across the country, appearing in pockets, cash registers, and bank drawers during a time when America was adjusting to the aftermath of the First World War and stepping into a new age of industrial growth and social change. The designer of the Buffalo nickel was sculptor James Earle Fraser, who grew up in the American Midwest and had personal memories of Native American culture and the disappearing frontier. Fraser wanted the coin to represent a true American identity rather than copying classical European styles. The obverse of the coin features a powerful right-facing portrait of a Native American that is not a single individual but a composite of several Native leaders Fraser admired, including Iron-Tail Two Moons and Big Tree. This portrait symbolized dignity, strength, and the deep roots of the land long before modern America was formed. The reverse of the coin shows an American bison, often called a buffalo, standing on a raised mound in the early issues, which represented the wild spirit of the West and the massive herds that once roamed the plains. By 1919, the Buffalo nickel had already gone through design adjustments because the original raised mound on the reverse caused the denomination to wear off too quickly. In 1913, the mint modified the reverse to place the buffalo on a flatter plane so that the words 5 cents would last longer in circulation. The 1919 Buffalo nickel was struck only in this later type. Style, which collectors today recognize by the flat ground beneath the buffalo, this change makes the 1919 issue part of the more durable and practical phase of the series. The year 1919 itself was significant in American history, and that context adds depth to the coin's story. The nation was recovering from the First World War, which had officially ended in late 1918. Soldiers were returning home. Industries were shifting from wartime production back to civilian needs, and the economy was entering a brief but intense period of adjustment. Inflation, labor strikes, and social tension were common, and coins like the Buffalo nickel were used daily by millions of Americans buying food, paying fares, and handling small transactions in a rapidly modernizing society. The 1919 Buffalo nickel was produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia mint struck coins without a mint mark, while Denver used the D-mint mark and San Francisco used this mint mark located beneath the words 5 cents on the reverse. Each mint produced different quantities, and this affects rarity and collector interest today. The Philadelphia issue had the highest production and is generally the most common, while the Denver and San Francisco issues had lower mintages and are more challenging to find in high grades. Quality control during this period was inconsistent, and many 1919 Buffalo nickels were weakly struck, especially on the buffalo's horn and the Native American's hair braid. This makes fully detailed examples particularly desirable to collectors. Coins with a strong horn visible on the buffalo are often referred to as having a full horn, and these command higher premiums in the collector market. The metal composition of the coin remained standard for the series, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gave the coin its durability, but also contributed to dye wear and softer details. In everyday life, the 1919 Buffalo nickel was a workhorse coin. It circulated heavily during the 1920s and 30s, passing through the Great Depression, when every cent mattered. Many examples were worn smooth during decades of use, which is why high-grade specimens are scarce today. Children might have used them for candy streetcar rides or movie tickets, while adults used them for groceries, newspapers, and small household needs. The coin became a silent witness to countless personal stories and historical moments. Culturally, the buffalo nickel represented a romanticized vision of the American past. At a time when that past was rapidly disappearing, Native American tribes were facing harsh federal policies and confinement to reservations, while the buffalo, which once numbered in the millions, had been nearly driven to extinction by the late 19th century. Fraser's design served as both a tribute and a reminder of what had been lost, making the coin emotionally powerful, as well as visually striking. Today, the 1919 buffalo nickel is studied, collected, and admired not only for its monetary value, but for its place in American art and history. Collectors examine strike-quality surface preservation and originality, while historians view the coin as a reflection of national identity during a transformative era. Whether found heavily worn or preserved in mint state, the 1919 buffalo nickel carries with it the weight of the past, linking modern collectors to a time of recovery, resilience, and change in the United States. Beyond its basic design and wartime context, the 1919 buffalo nickel sits at an interesting crossroads of American coin production technology and national identity. By this time, the United States Mint was struggling to balance artistic ambition with mass production demands. The buffalo nickel was admired by the public, but disliked by many mint officials, because its high relief details caused dies to wear out quickly and strikes to appear weak. In 1919, mint workers often had to use dies longer than ideal, which resulted in soft details, especially on the Native Americans' cheekbone date and the buffalo's horn and tail. This is why sharply struck 1919 coins are far scarcer than later dates from the mid-1930s. Die varieties from 1919 also add another layer of fascination for collectors and historians. While no famous overdates exist for this year like the legendary 1918 over 7 buffalo nickel, there are subtle repunched mint marks and minor die cracks that show the intense pressure under which the mint operated. These small imperfections tell a human story of engravers, technicians, and press operators working long hours to keep up with the nation's need for coinage during a turbulent economic recovery. In 1919, America was experiencing the Red Summer, a period of widespread racial tension and violence alongside labor unrest and massive strikes in steel, coal, and transportation industries. Coins like the buffalo nickel circulated during these moments of uncertainty, passing through hands of factory workers, farmers, immigrants, and returning veterans. The Native American portrait on the coin stood in quiet contrast to the real struggles faced by indigenous peoples, at the time who were still denied full citizenship until 1924. This contrast makes the coin historically complex, because it honors Native imagery while existing, in an era that often ignored Native rights. The buffalo itself had become a symbol of conservation by 1919. Thanks to early preservation efforts, the American bison had narrowly escaped extinction. Zoos, national parks, and private herds were helping rebuild populations. The presence of the buffalo on everyday money reminded Americans of both destruction and responsibility, and reflected a growing awareness of environmental conservation that would continue into the 20th century. As the 1920s progressed, the 1919 buffalo nickel continued to circulate alongside newer dates, and its surfaces gradually softened from use. Many were later melted or lost during economic hardship, especially during the Great Depression when people hoarded silver and neglected base metal coins. Others were pulled from circulation by collectors once the Buffalo Nickel series ended in 1938 and was replaced by the Jefferson nickel. By that point, the Buffalo Nickel had become nostalgic almost, immediately representing an older, more rugged vision of America. In the modern collecting world, the 1919 Buffalo Nickel is appreciated not just as a single coin, but as part of a broader narrative of American coin artistry. Numismatists often compare it to earlier Liberty designs and later Jefferson nickels, noting how bold and sculptural Fraser's work was. Museums and textbooks frequently highlight the Buffalo Nickel as one of the greatest achievements in United States coin design, and The 1919 issue represents a mature phase of that design, still powerful, yet already bearing the marks of heavy circulation. For a YouTube audience, the story of the 1919 Buffalo nickel can be stretched into hours by exploring its artistic origins, its place in post-war America, its role in daily life, and its journey from pocket change to collectible artifact. Every worn date and faded detail becomes part of a larger story connecting the coin to a nation redefining itself after war industrialization and cultural change. As we go even deeper into the story, the 1919 Buffalo nickel also reflects how ordinary Americans interacted with money on a daily emotional level during the early 20th century. Cash was physical and personal, and coins were handled constantly. Unlike today's digital transactions, a nickel in 1919 had real purchasing power and could represent a small moment of relief or comfort, especially in working-class families. The Buffalo nickel often stayed in circulation for decades, meaning a single 1919 coin could pass through thousands of hands across different states, towns, and generations, silently absorbing history. At the minting presses in 1919, technology was still largely mechanical with limited automation. Compared to modern standards, blank planchets were fed into heavy presses that struck each coin with immense force. The hardness of the copper-nickel alloy combined with Fraser's bold sculptural design caused dies to crack and erode quickly. This resulted in many coins having uneven details, which today helps historians understand minting pressures and production shortcuts taken during periods of high demand. The visible wear on original mint dies tells a behind-the-scenes story of industrial strain during post-war America. The Native American portrait on the 1919 Buffalo nickel also gained symbolic meaning over time. While originally intended as a tribute, it became part of a broader conversation about representation and memory. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Native cultures were often portrayed as vanishing, and the coin unintentionally reinforced this idea. Yet modern historians and Native scholars view the design as a complicated artifact that both honors strength and reminds us of displacement, loss, and survival. This layered interpretation gives the 1919 Buffalo nickel relevance far beyond its face value. During the Prohibition era, which began in 1920, just 1 year after this coin was minted, the 1919 Buffalo nickel circulated in speakeasies, diners, corner stores, and rural trading posts. It could have paid for a newspaper reporting on bootlegging raids or been slid across a counter for a cup of coffee during long factory shifts. Coins from this era are often discovered today with deep-wear smooth fields and barely visible dates showing just how intensely they were used through dramatic chapters of American social history. As the Great Depression arrived in 1929, Buffalo nickels, including those dated 1919, became even more important. Small change was crucial when money was scarce, and many people relied on nickels for survival-level purchases. Some families saved jars of change as emergency funds, and others used them for bartering. This heavy circulation explains why so many 1919 Buffalo nickels are found in worn condition and why uncirculated examples feel almost like time capsules frozen at the moment of minting. When the Buffalo nickel series ended in 1938, many Americans felt a sense of loss. Even though the Jefferson nickel was more practical and easier to strike, Fraser's design had become emotionally tied to an older America of open-land frontier stories and national mythology. The 1919 issue sat near the center of the series' timeline, making it a representative example of the coin at its most widely used stage, rather than at its beginning or end. In the decades that followed, collectors began pulling Buffalo nickels from circulation. Especially during the coin-collecting boom of the 1950s and 1960s, people searched pocket change albums and old drawers hoping to find readable dates and stronger strikes. The 1919 Buffalo nickel became a familiar target for beginners and experts alike because it was attainable yet still historically rich. This accessibility helped cement its place in American numismatic culture. Today, when a collector holds a 1919 Buffalo nickel, they are not just holding metal but a compressed piece of American experience, shaped by war recovery, industrial labor, cultural tension, conservation, awareness, and artistic ambition. The coin bridges the past and present, making it perfect for long-form storytelling on YouTube, where each detail can unfold, slowly connecting viewers to the rhythm of another era and turning a simple 5-cent piece into a journey through history.